Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dancing with Damage. I'm Ian, your resident philosopher.
And I'm Abby, your resident author.
And today we talk about nostalgia for episode 44.
How fun?
How fun. Makes me nostalgic for episode 43. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. There's no right ending to that sentence. So, Abby, you wanted to talk about nostalgia. I mean, how it's going to work sort of going forward is Abby and I will think of a topic that we think you will find interesting, that we think has a social connection of some import to the social blueprint. Because again, we feel what we can bring to the table is an interpretation of social issues or interesting issues with the social blueprint spin to serve you some fresh, delicious content. It is like, Abby, it is like how if a restaurant opened up in a busy city, they might use the same ingredients and go to the market and get the carrots and the onions, the rutabaga. Can't make anything good without rutabaga, obviously. But if you prepare it in a different way than other restaurants, it might be very healthy, might have interest in it. And so today we're going to talk about nostalgia. Before I turn it over to Abby, as always, a little definition to start things off. I say as always, but
It's been once, but I like it.
haha, tricked you. I looked up nostalgia on the Google, and it told me that it comes from the Latin nostos. I think that means home, something to the effect of home, and like comfort, that kind of thing. And logos, meaning pain. So nostal, logos, or maybe geos, whatever. The last part means pain. And so the Germans had it in like the 18th century as homesickness. So Abby, why did you want to talk about nostalgos, homesickness, today?
Because it is a very bright spot in our lives when we get to exercise our nostalgic bones, our nostalgic whims, our nostalgic fingers. I don't know what part of us is nostalgic.
Yeah, it flex our nostalgic muscles.
Flex our nostalgic muscles. That's what I wanted to say.
But I like exercising our nostalgic bones. Just these old creaky bones that just haven't been exercised in a while.
Especially amongst millennials, which we are, and I think many of you also are. Nostalgia is a very important part of our lives. There's been a resurgence of people loving Pokemon. There's been a resurgence of people playing old video games. We literally have several playlists and we'll continue to have more playlists of us playing nostalgic video games and some new video games together, because playing video games with a friend is sort of a nostalgic pastime. It harkens back memories of youth where things were simpler and you felt safe and the weight of the world didn't crush you as much. And I feel, in short, that the world is currently very damaged. We are all struggling with damage. And as we get older, it sort of hits us more, that crocodile, as Ian put it in a previous discussion, flying over us, waiting to drop. And I mean, you said it.
I did, but it occurs to me, if a crocodile fell from on high, it would probably just die. Probably it would have been better if it were like a bomb, which would cause damage upon impact. I mean, unless the crocodile landed right on you.
I like to think the crocodile has jet skis or something, so it's gonna land fine.
Jet skis?
Jet skis.
Like a jet pack?
I don't know. I think there are something called jet skis, but I'm picturing skis that have jets on the back.
So a jet ski can also be called a sea-doo.
Oh, I was picturing literal skis with tiny jets on the back of them.
And that would make more sense? Yeah, I think she's right. I think a hovering crocodile with jet-propelled skis is actually a big... Maybe we'll talk about that next episode. Abby, I have a question for you about nostalgia. Do you have... So we've talked about nostalgic video games from our past. It's no secret that Abby and I played Pokemon during our, I wouldn't say formative years, but our developing years as teenagers. And that left an impression on us. We still like playing them today. The scientific community has said nostalgia has a big impact on our oxytocin centers in our brain, giving very positive chemical reactions to watching something that we've seen before in an important phase of our lives. Also, it helps with anxiety, helps with feelings of loneliness, and I even read one piece of literature saying that it helped give our life a feeling of meaning. So Abby, I kind of cut you off. What were you saying about the crocodile?
Just in essence, with all of the damage heavily, visibly weighting down on us, it makes sense that we're seeking comfort. And in an era where social media is so prevalent and human interaction and human relationships are so scarce and so frail, and even when we do have some, the parties are so damaged, it can be hard for people to have that true feeling of understanding and love in their lives. It makes a lot of sense that there's this dramatic resurgence of nostalgia and people looking for any semblance of an item or an activity that can bring them back to that feeling of being a little kid, or even if you had bad days compared to being an adult. It was so much easier to be a kid. It was such a simpler time in our lives. And I am guilty of this. I love watching movies that I saw as a kid. I love watching TV shows I watched as a kid. I still love playing a lot of the games I played as a kid because it does sort of make you feel safe and happy, and it brings back all the good memories. It's sort of like the idea of looking through rose-colored glasses, you know? So even if there were bad times in our childhood, when you look back through the lens of nostalgia, you sort of only see the good parts, which is nice. It's a nice way to remember your childhood, and it also makes you feel a little bit safer in a world that doesn't feel so safe anymore.
And I'm flipping through here because I was trying to find, here it is, chapter.
Normally it's me flipping.
I know, I'm like flipping all over the place. I'm flipping out. Chapter 10, The Bear and the Seasons. I didn't realize it was that early. Chapter 10, The Weave of Love. This probably isn't picking up, but you will remember that at page 53 of the Social Blueprint, if you picked it up, thank you, by the way, for doing that. Look, I spent a long time drawing this. See the curvy lines? Now, you would think curvy lines would be easy. Nay. I had to do this freehand because I couldn't find a program that gave me what I wanted. But it talks about just what Abby's saying, how the average love in society per person is diminishing. And so when she talks about going back to times that seemed more peaceful and more secure, we know as gregarious mammals, a feeling of connection with other people, true connection, a bond of love, one of the 6 subconscious emotion, the contract of love, the willingness to exchange a sacrifice in order for a sacrifice from another person down the road. Very critical and slipping away from us, according to my very scientific graph.
So scientific.
Look, all right.
It's a graph. I'll give it to you.
It's a graph. You can't get much more scientific than a graph. That's scientifically proven. I want to see a graph about graphs.
There's probably a lot of programs where you can put in, figures or numbers and it will develop a graph. But I do like that you painstakingly drew the graph by hand like a grade 4 science project. That was really good.
You have to remember too, fans of Dancing with Damage, that I drew that graph about 12 years ago. So back then, there wasn't these fancy, but there probably was fancy programs, but I don't think it was as fancy. And certainly I did not have access to the fanciness back in those days. So I drew that and it just stuck around in a notebook and now it's being foisted on you. So take
You're
that.
welcome.
Feel my pain. So Abby, I have a question for you about nostalgia. Before we get into that, just a little tidbit from the scientific community. I guess we're their spokespeople now. And I looked it up, apparently. Nostalgic things bring the brain a dose of oxytocin, one of those very positive chemicals. I always remember the positive chemicals with the acronym DOSE. I think a lot of people do. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. Sounds like a Pokemon. And endorphins. Oxytocin is what nostalgia gets us, apparently, and also has a correlation with reduced feeling of loneliness, like Abby talked about, and also can give us a feeling of purpose in life. That's interesting. We might touch on that later, because giving our lives a purpose through the soul and fundamental happiness is what we address in the Social Blueprint. But Abby, I do have a question for you. Do you have a nostalgic meal that you had as a kid that when you think back, you're like, oh, that was just the best thing as a kid?
Oh man, this is weird. So I have severe allergies to a lot of foods, and food safety regulations have changed dramatically in my lifetime. I am going to be 32 this year. So in the 32-ish years, a lot of companies have gone from making products that were considered safe for people with nut allergies to having warnings that say may contain, so you probably shouldn't eat this warnings. And we won't get into it too much, but there were some documentaries that sort of implied that before the food allergy warnings came up, they were really good about sanitizing and cleaning practices. But as soon as the warnings were added to the packaging, they're kind of like, oh, well, we don't have to try as hard, so the risk actually increased. So I have nostalgic memories of eating certain kinds of chocolate that I can no longer eat. I can remember what they taste like, but I can't actually eat them anymore, like Lindt chocolate. I know that's so weird, but when you say a meal, I guess chicken fingers and fries, but like Lindt chocolate, I can't eat it anymore. It may contain nuts.
This may contain not nostalgia, because isn't that just something you are craving because it was cut off from you?
But I guess it's okay, how about this?
What can you eat nowadays that makes you think of fonder times?
There were some birthday cake Oreos.
This one, obsessed with chocolate. Became a baker. I get it now. She's trying to fill the void of the...
And also dairy milk. Dairy milk chocolate's so good, and I can't eat like the Cadbury bars anymore. But I remember so fondly and so clearly what they all taste like. But the original Dunkaroos, the vanilla Dunkaroos, that was a thing you ate when you were a kid, you know? Maybe not you, but the rest of us. We had vanilla Dunkaroos, and they changed the recipe. Because I remember in university I tried one for fun, and it tasted different. But birthday cake Oreos, I tried one of those, and it tasted exactly like how Dunkaroos used to taste when I was like 6. So that was nostalgia. Food was a bad one. I thought you'd say like a video game or a TV show or a movie. I can do that.
And I wish I had.
What about you? What's a nostalgic meal for you?
So, for whatever reason, when I reflectively thought of that answer before you asked me, a meal of stir fry popped up. And I think it was because, well, first of all, I've been married to Abby for a number of years.
Many.
Many years. Feels like many years. Ooh.
That's not funny.
Ooh. No, it has gone by the exact right pace for a happy marriage. See, if you say it's gone by quickly, I guess that's a good thing. It's gone by quickly.
It feels like it's gone by quickly.
It doesn't, though. We've really done, we have traveled some distance, you and I.
It feels like we've done 30 years worth of stuff together, and like I've known you my whole life, but it also feels like I just met you, but I also can't really remember my life without you in it, if that makes sense.
Yikes. So, in terms of our marriage, we've been married for several years, and so because of our allergies, we've had to be careful about what comes in the house. Things like soy sauce and stir fries and any kind of oriental dish, it just doesn't really work with Abby's palate. So that's probably something I have been craving a bit, is that's kind of soy sauce based oriental food. But I just remember my mom used to make it a lot, and it was just rice and soy sauce and whatever vegetables she pan fried and some thinly sliced meat she'd pan fry. But for some reason that is nostalgic to me.
Oh, I'll make that for you.
Delicious.
I had no idea you were craving that. I was making turkey calzones, so I'm gonna change that.
Turkey calzone, delicious nonetheless. So why did I ask that? There's no reason. I was just curious. I do want to talk a bit about a patient who goes to a doctor and has fever and is nauseous and their face is kind of stuffy and it kind of hurts. And what might the doctor say the patient has?
An illness.
Wow, this doctor.
Allergies, the flu, the common cold.
There's lots of potential explanations, but what we don't jump to is that each of them are to a separate thing. See, Abby gave a list of things that fit those symptoms jointly. And there is a theory or a way of thinking about things called Occam's razor. The idea that the simplest explanation is the best or usually the right explanation. And so in the last episode, maybe not the last. I don't remember. What was social media 2 episodes ago?
I think it was 2 episodes ago.
So social media, we talked about how there is a real swell of social media invading our lives, sort of 4 to 5 hours a day of our leisure time being consumed with screen time, social media, and many age groups. In this episode, we're talking about nostalgia, a swell of that as well. Now, they both have the attributes of filling a void of loneliness and creating a false feeling of social connection. So, Abby, if those are the symptoms we're seeing that are just bursting through at the doctor's office, what does that point to as an illness?
Damage.
It does. And obviously, I don't like seeing social problems, but I always am somewhat interested or content in a way, I suppose, that the theory in the social blueprint still holds up. Because in the social blueprint, the argument is that the glue that holds people together is faltering. The glue of love, the glue of connection that can only be made through an undamaged subconscious. And it all goes back to the root of the problem. We have unmoderated technology just eroding with the pincers the ability for humans born in this generation, the last few generations since the Industrial Revolution, to form bonds of love because of self-destructive tendencies. And everything we see now really does make me proud of the theory, but make me very sad for the prospects of humanity, because to live in a life without social connection, that's like a brain cell without any synapses connecting it to other brain cells.
You know what's interesting? Did I cut you off?
No, I actually just want to know what's interesting.
Well, in small ways, humanity is actually following what we say in the book in the rat in the corner and the rebound, because with nostalgia and with the wave of emptiness and isolation, there has been a resurgence of things like records. So people are moving away to lower tech technology. As an example, mostly millennials. That's what all the data has sort of been gathered around. And there are some younger generations who, as a fad, are dabbling in the technologies I'm about to explore. But it's mostly hardcore millennials who are reverting and actually staying with some older technology, like record players. A lot of millennials are now buying record players and listening to records. There's a resurgence of the DVD, Blu-ray population as opposed to having streaming services. They're mad about not being able to own things. There's a resurgence in Furbies and games from our childhood, but they involve technology, but they're lower tech than what we have available to us today. And because I think in part technology increasing has also been married to a subscription-based lifestyle where you don't own anything and you're just sort of borrowing stuff forever, but not in a helpful way, in a I have no money and no possessions way. There's been a fight. There's been a rebound of people sort of going back a step to the technology from like the 90s, early 2000s, and embracing that. And shows that we used to love back in the day are getting a resurgence. Like The Office, as Ian mentioned, has never gone out of style. Frasier had a reboot that was actually really funny. I enjoyed it. And a lot of old shows or a lot of old Disney movies, instead of making new stuff, Disney realized, hey, if we just remake in a live action so it's different, all of these classic movies, people will come and they'll watch it just because they loved the original movie so much. We're gonna get the street cred. So it's interesting how society, in a small way, not enough, but in a small way, has sort of started to fight back against damage a little bit, and they've actually started taking themselves off technology just a little bit. They've gone back a step.
Very true. Now, Abby, I want to make a comparison with one of our dogs. Our dog, Gray, who is a lovely Belgian Shepherd, perhaps not on the highest level of the intelligence quotient of that particular species. One day he cut his foot, and we tried to, because he yelped in pain, we all sort of tried to go comfort him. But I guess the dog thought that the people around him were the ones causing him pain. And so he sort of ran away. And so anytime anyone would try and go near him, the other dog, Abby, myself, or whatever, he would keep running away. And because his foot hurt every time he ran away, it sort of reaffirmed his theory that the people trying to help him were the ones causing him pain. And it just reminds me of nostalgia, social media. Abby and I, we get a lot of comments from people because we live up north. What is a very common thing people will say to us when they come visit our place? And it's kind of remote, rural area. Our neighbors are not very close. There's a lot of wilderness around us. What will people say from down south or from the cities when they come see us?
Well, Ian, a lot of them say that this is their dream, that they want to do exactly what we're doing and they wish they could, but something is stopping them. And I always say, hey, now is the best time because we had a dream and then we just kind of did it. And shockingly, it's working.
That's right. So people are saying they just want to get away from the rat race, go to a cabin in the woods. And then another thing that strikes me is all this interest in space exploration. So there's companies that want to settle on Mars and see how far we can get from the Earth and all this sort of that fixation. And it reminds me of the dog. That the injury was on its paw, so it just kept running and running and running, trying to escape the problem. But the whole time, the problem was within itself. And so nostalgia, to me, is just another symptom of that illness that humanity has contracted. And, you know, we kind of wish some politician, I haven't really heard a politician or a leader say this. Certainly if Abby and I ever get to a political platform, it's something we would want to say. But essentially that the problems in society are within us and not with factors outside of ourselves. And that in order to fix those problems, we have to first fix our own damage in our own selves, because leaders will sometimes blame other groups of people or will blame circumstances or who knows what they'll say. But you rarely hear a leader say, the problem, people, is us. And what's the plan to fix that? Have you ever heard anything like that?
No, but it does remind me of a message of hope, because while nostalgia and the rise of it, we believe, is strongly correlated with damage and the internal desire to have reprieve from the pain and suffering damage causes, it can be a force for good. This is a damage symptom that we could weaponize to be positive. Because while a lot of things, like, as we said with social media, are negative, us trying to talk to you through social media is sort of a way to try to heal from the inside. And while there have been negative things associated with nostalgia, you know, loneliness, spending a lot of money to buy more things that don't really fill a void, or people stealing Pokemon cards, it's been a really big thing in the news lately. You can use nostalgia as a way to reconnect with other humans on a face-to-face level that we say you need to have the wings of love. So there are people making groups that if you like Pokemon and you have a reasonable number of Pokemon cards, you can go and play and learn. Or there's other card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering, that's always been popular, where people can go and play with other people. Or, you know, maybe you could have a movie night with your friends and you just put your phones away and you sit and watch Mulan or Hercules, The Lion King, and you make treats, and maybe everyone brings a treat that reminds you of the movie. So you can sort of take nostalgia and our desire, I like food, and you can take your desire for nostalgia and make it a social activity where you're not only stepping away from technology a little bit, even for a time, but you're reminding yourself of the value and the benefit of having human interaction face to face. And you can also have activities that are positive for reinforcing and strengthening those connections. So we can use this as a way to hopefully reconnect with each other as humans and try to find lower tech ways of entertaining ourselves that are not just scrolling on TikTok for 17 hours a day, apparently.
That's right. And even just understanding the theory of damage, I find, based on my discussions with people, and maybe Abby thinks so too, just understanding the concept of damage is enough to start fighting against it. If it remains an enemy totally in the shadows and totally in our peripheral vision, then you can never do anything about it. But if you're able to face it to some extent, that does help. Although I have a follow-up question, Abby. You said, good idea to watch a Disney movie and make snacks that remind you of the movie. I want to watch The Lion King. What snack would you make me?
Well, I was thinking the savannah is very dry. and there's a lot of desert. So I would make a chocolate cake and I would sprinkle it with cocoa powder. So it kind of has like the look of the savannah. And then I might make a chocolate lion to go on top of it. That's fine. Or we could have, you know, a gummy worm salad. Timon and Pumbaa love bugs. So gummy worms are an excellent item that fit in exactly to the movie, you know?
I thought I was going to trick her with this question because she is the baker and she loves making snacks. And I thought I can trip her up because who could make a snack that reminds them of the Lion King?
You have to remember, I have very few things that I would consider myself an expert in. One of them is Disney movies. The other one is Scooby-Doo. Neither are practical or applicable in real life. But
She is a competent teacher also.
I am, but I don't think you can ever be an expert in teaching because it is an infinite subject matter and you can always learn more and it's always expanding. Whereas the entirety of a series or a piece of content is a finite thing and you can know everything there is to know because it is finite. So I feel myself that if it's an infinite area, I cannot be an expert because there's still more to learn and more to do. Does that make sense?
It does. I wish I had an infinite gummy worm salad. I love gummies. I try not to eat them because Abby and I try not to eat anything with sugar in it, and a gummy worm is just sugar, but so delicious.
Yeah, the smart sweets you find with
Oh, I'm a sucker for those. So, Abby, did we cover the gamut of nostalgia today on Dancing with Damage?
I think so. Tell me what you think in the comments. I basically just wanted to say it's a symptom of damage, but it's a positive one. And as long as we're not overindulging in hyper-consumerism and hoarding, like people who have 5,000 Teletubbies or something, or people who have like $200,000 worth of Pokemon cards just to have them, that's not healthy. But if we can rein in this symptom and use it as a force of good, we can make ourselves feel better and also decrease our damage by increasing the love that we have and we share. So I thought it was just nice, you know? And also I kind of wanted to talk about The Lion King, and now I kind of want to go watch Sailor Moon. Anyone else?
Well, great. Well, thanks for tuning in. Join us next time on Dancing with Damage.
Have a great day.